Maren knows she is a monster. Her earliest memory is an incident when she was just a baby, left with a quiet, lonely babysitter named Penny Wilson. When Maren's mother returned, she found her daughter asleep next to a pile of bones on the living room carpet, the babysitter's face gone, and the tiny hammer of an eardrum inside Maren's mouth. This event sets the pattern for Maren's life. A quiet existence with her loving but terrified mother, punctuated by sudden, hurried moves whenever Maren succumbs to the unspeakable hunger. Her mother never speaks of the incidents, referring to them only as the bad thing. And Maren grows up isolated, burdened by a self-loathing she cannot articulate. For years, the hunger lies dormant. Then, at age 8, Maren is sent to summer camp. There, in the middle of a murky lake, she meets Luke Vanderwall, a boy with red hair and a constellation of freckles. He is an adventurous, kindred spirit, and for a few days they share secret notes and a budding childhood romance. One night, Luke leads her to a makeshift red tent he has built for her in the woods, stocked with snacks and a sleeping bag. He talks excitedly of his future as a forest ranger, of living in a treehouse and having grand adventures. But as he sits close to her, Maren is overwhelmed by his smell, the lake, the chili from dinner, the very essence of his vibrant life. The hunger and the certainty of what will happen floods her. Despite her inner voice screaming for her to leave, she leans in, and the boy who dreamed of the wilderness never leaves the woods. The next day, after a frantic search, the camp is closed, and the children are sent home. Maren, nails rimmed in red, is collected by her pale, silent mother. Another move follows, this time to Baltimore. At her mother's office Christmas party, Maren meets Jamie Gash, the lonely, spectacled son of her mother's boss. He shows her the stars through his telescope, sharing myths of the constellations. Later, he coaxes her down to the basement for a clumsy game of show and tell. Maren knows she should refuse, should run, but his vulnerability and her own encroaching hunger prove an inescapable combination. Again, she is left with the aftermath, hiding the remains behind the laundry machines and returning to the party just in time for her mother to see the truth in her eyes. It is another hurried departure, another lost job, another dream of stability for her mother shattered by the monster she bore. When Maren's 16th birthday, her mother treats her to a perfect day of bookstores, Italian food, and a movie. It feels special, a reprieve from their tense nomadic life. The next morning, however, Maren wakes to an empty apartment. On the kitchen table is a note, "I'm your mother, and I love you, but I can't do this anymore." Her mother is gone, having taken only the things she truly loved, leaving Maren behind like a piece of unwanted furniture. Along with the note is a thick envelope containing cash and Maren's birth certificate. For the first time, she sees her father's name, Francis Yearly of Sandhorn, Minnesota. Believing her mother has gone to her own parents in Edgartown, Pennsylvania, Maren uses some of the money for a bus ticket, hoping for a reconciliation. She finds her grandparents' house and watches from the darkness as her mother, small and broken, cries in her own mother's arms. Realizing there is no going back, Maren sleeps in an abandoned Cadillac. Her quest has changed. She will now find her father she has never known. In Edgartown, a kind, elderly woman named Lydia Harmon asks Maren for her help with her groceries. Mrs. Harmon invites her back to her cozy, well-kept house for breakfast. For a few hours, Maren experiences a taste of normalcy and warmth, of a real home filled with pictures and memories. Mrs. Harmon promises to teach her to knit, and after their meal, lies down for a nap. When Maren tries to wake her later, she discovers the old woman has peacefully passed away in her sleep. As Maren sits in the quiet house, unsure of what to do, she is startled by a noise. A gaunt, grizzled old man with a missing earlobe is kneeling over Mrs. Harmon's body, feasting on her flesh. He introduces himself as Sullivan, or Sully, and calmly explains his rule. He only eats those who are already dead, a sense he claims to have for people near their end. He is another eater. Maren is not alone. Sully is a strange, nomadic figure who weaves a long rope from the hair of his victims, a grotesque but strangely beautiful memento. He teaches Maren how to make hobo stew and shares stories of his life, advising them that their kind must remain solitary to survive. When Mrs. Harmon's niece calls, planning a visit, they know they must leave. Sully invites Maren to travel with him, but she is determined to find her father, believing he might be an eater too and could provide answers. Sully leaves her a note and a small flipbook before departing, telling her to come find him if her search for her father proves fruitless. Maren's journey is quickly complicated by a lack of money. She hitches a ride with a college student who abandons her at a Walmart in Iowa. Desperate and alone, she witnesses a confrontation between a belligerent drunk and a quiet, handsome boy in a green baseball jersey named Lee. Lee leads the drunk man away, and Maren later learns eats him in the men's room. That same night, a kind but lonely Walmart employee named Andy offers Maren food and a place to rest in his car. His gentleness triggers her hunger, and she consumes him in the parking lot. Overcome with despair, she steps in front of a speeding truck, but Lee, who had been watching, yanks her to safety. He reveals that he too is an eater. They are the same. For the first time, Maren has a companion. Lee is pragmatic and less burdened with guilt than Maren. He believes in a kind of predatory justice, eating those who are cruel or malevolent. They drive off in the drunk's pickup truck, beginning a journey together. Lee needs to return to his hometown of Tingley, Virginia, to give his younger sister, Kayla, a driving lesson. He is fiercely protective of Kayla, wanting her to have a normal life, a life he can never have. Maren agrees to the detour, and on the way, their bond deepens. They camp in state parks, and Maren shares the stories of her victims, showing Lee the mementos she has kept in her rucksack. Their travels lead them to a small church carnival in Wisconsin. For a few hours, they are a normal teenage couple, riding the Ferris wheel and eating junk food. But from the top of the ride, Maren spots a familiar figure waving from the crowd below. Sully. He claims his appearance is a coincidence, that he has a cabin nearby and was just passing through. Lee is intensely suspicious, but Maren, craving a home-cooked meal and a real bed, persuades him to accept Sully's invitation. That night at the carnival, Lee eats a cruel girl working a game booth, an act Maren observes with a complicated mix of understanding and unease. At Sully's remote cabin, the atmosphere is tense. Lee's suspicions grow, as Sully seems to know things he shouldn't. After dinner, Maren discovers a hidden cupboard filled with stolen belongings from Sully's victims, including the bronze Sphinx trophy from Mrs. Harmon's nightstand. More chillingly, she finds an old National Park staff ID card belonging to her father, Maren Yearly. That night, Sully enters her room, knife in hand, and reveals the final, horrifying truth. He is her grandfather, and her father is his son. He has been hunting her, waiting for this moment. A brutal struggle ensues. Maren manages to strike him with the heavy Sphinx trophy and escapes into the woods, leaving her rucksack and all her possessions behind. She finds a car left on the road. It belongs to Travis, a kind orderly from her father's hospital, and drives away. After giving the car to Lee's sister, Kayla, Maren spends weeks living alone in an abandoned barn, finding a strange peace in her solitude. Eventually, she makes her way back to Bridewell Hospital, where Lee is waiting for her. He had been there for a week, hoping she would return. Relieved and reunited, they traveled to a national park where Maren's parents once worked. One day, their truck breaks down, and they are picked up by a flirtatious college student, Carrie Ann, who takes them back to her dorm in Madison. That night, Carrie Ann tries to separate them, hoping to seduce Lee. She lies to a security guard, claiming not to know Maren, and has her thrown out. Lee, disgusted, eats Carrie Ann. They take over her dorm room, and for a few months, they live a life of uncanny normalcy. Maren gets a job shelving books at the library, and she and Lee build a quiet life together, their shared secret, a constant, invisible presence. The fragile peace is shattered when Sully, who was not killed by Maren's blow, tracks her down to the library. He follows her back to the dorm and attacks her. Lee arrives just in time, and in a final, vicious confrontation, he kills and consumes Sully, saving Maren's life, but being deeply shaken by the act. In the aftermath, Lee finally opens up to Maren, telling her about his lost love, Rachel, a girl who saw him eat someone and was driven into a catatonic state, institutionalized in the very hospital where Maren's father resides. The weight of their lives, of all the bones, becomes too much for Lee. One night, filled with a love and despair he can no longer bear, he offers himself to Maren. He kisses her, his touch a mixture of love and resignation, and Maren, overwhelmed by her own love, loneliness, and the insatiable hunger that defines her, consumes him. The story ends with Maren alone again, but changed. She works at the library, a ghost moving among the living. She has a home, a job, and a routine, but she carries the weight of Lee inside her, the ultimate proof that for people like them, love and destruction are intertwined, and that she is destined to be bones and all.